Hello, welcome to the Rich and Simple Living. My name's Maria. If you're new here, I cover homeschooling, urban homesteading, home life, bits of all sorts, and cooking. I seem to do a lot of cooking lately, but I suppose that's home life, isn't it? But yeah, today is homeschooling. We're going to be covering how to write stories. I was asked recently about story writing, what resources are used and ideas and things like that. So I thought I'd just cover it today and tell you how we do it with Sian. I'm quite fortunate really though, because Sian, her strengths lie in English and story writing and things like that. So I'm quite fortunate there. It's maths that where her strengths don't lie, things like that. But still have days where she says, oh, I don't know what to write about. What shall I do? So I just thought I'd discuss what we do really and how we do it. Now, I don't have many resources. I haven't really used anything for story writing. The closest I've got to resources for it is we got a comprehension book when she first started homeschooling, when she was in year 7, but I think it was designed for a year 6, but can't find none for Key Stage 2. So we've got a book like all different bits of comprehension in where you read through it. It's like snippets of books, poems, things like that, and you read through it and it asks you questions and you've got to really read into it to find the answers and, you know, draw out your answers from it. So I think that was a good way towards story writing because, you know, it's getting you to read and it's getting you to look in to find the hidden bits and pieces sort of thing and bring them out. And also, I've not seen, like I said, I've not seen any books for that for Key Stage 3, but Twinkle, if you go on to Twinkle, that's, I don't know if that's for abroad. I know in the UK we get Twinkle. I don't know about other countries if you're watching from another country, but we go on to Twinkle and they do worksheets, comprehensions where you can read and answer questions. Sometimes it's like history and things like that. Other times you can get like extracts from books and that kind of thing and read through and do the same again, you know, answer questions. So I always think that's quite good because it gets them thinking about story and looking deeper into snippets of stories and gives you the idea, you know, of going deeper into things and finding the meaning of things when you're writing or writing with a meaning. And of course, not all books have to have a meaning, but I think that was pretty good practice. Now going on to reading. Now to write, I always think you've got to be able to read, not in the obvious sense, but if you enjoy reading, you tend to be able to write as well. If you read a lot of books, I'm not sure how to say it. If you read a lot of books, you find if you're going to write, then you will flow better because you read. If you read a lot, you seem to write better. And you'll find that a lot of authors read a lot of books and you do seem to be able to flow better. If you read books, that interest is there and obviously you just find that you're able to write much better. And you find your own way of writing as well. At first you might write like your favourite authors, you might sort of be in mind of them, but eventually you will find your own way of writing. But another thing is interest, of course. You've got to have the interest to begin with. Not everybody is interested in it. Like I was saying, I'm looking at Sian's stronger point and her weaker point is maths, so she ain't got no interest in maths. Well, it's the same if your weak point is English and definitely writing stories and things like that, then, you know, your interest is going to be very difficult to trigger. So you've got to find things that interest your child. They've got to find something that's interesting. So you just take real life then and look around and pick things that are of interest that they can write about, give them ideas. One thing that we used to do when Sian was in year 6, it was something they started and we continued to do it when we started homeschooling, was they were given like lines, sentences. It could be anything. I could say I put Sian bought a red car. anything like that. I just can't think of lines off the top of my head. But, you know, say something like that. Write a list of just things like that. Sean Barter, red car. Mum likes bananas. Anything. Just write a list of things. And what they had to do in school, they had this 100-word assignment to write a story in 100 words. And you had to use these sentences. Obviously, the sentences would probably make a bit more sense. If you were going to do that, you sort of bear in mind, you know, have a bit of sense of the line sort of thing. But you can just take lines, just simple lines. And I'm not sure how many they had to pick from. I can't remember. But there was a few lines and you had to incorporate them into your story and you had to keep it to 100 words. Now, that was really good practice. That was really good. And Sian wrote some really good things then. And she used to read them to the person next to him in class. And they used to say to her, oh, what happened next? Well, of course, there was no next at that point. But yeah, that was a good thing to do. Just give some lines and see what they come up with. And just a list of little sentences and see what they come up with. I mean, you could sort of have starting, middle points and ending points in these sentences, and they could pick any one of them to use in whichever order they wanted. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they come up with. And, you know, you don't have to write great big long essays. It can be 100 words, and have to be bang on 100 words, but you say, right, you know, just fill a page or half a page or anything like that. Start at half and go longer and longer, depending how their interests and what they could do. But I used to find that was really good, and Sian used to enjoy that. And even I used to want to have a go, see what I could write. It was quite addictive, that was. So that was one thing that we used and thought was really good. Another idea is banding ideas about, sitting and talking ideas. And now me and Sian were doing that this morning, and because it was story writing time, she says, oh, I don't know what to write about today. I said, well, just anything really. What you've been doing, fed the rabbits, okay then. And so sort of, what would you if you found a strange rabbit in the garden? What do you think its name might be? Oh no, I said, what if you found a rabbit in the garden and its name was Brian? She's laughing her head on Brian. I said, yeah, what colour do you think Brian's fur will be? She says, oh, sort of blackishy colour, and it'd be all fluffy, she says. So she's picturing this idea. So then I'll band another idea about saying, yeah, when your rabbits went off on an adventure with Brian, what do you think they'd get up to? So you're sort of going into your imagination, so you're banding ideas to each other, and as long as somebody sort of maybe jots the ideas down, if you're going to have so many that you might forget, but you're building up a story and you can take the story wherever you want to take it. So now we can't help but not visualise this rabbit called Brian. But yeah, you just get ideas and just throw them to each other, just throw them out to each other and say, well, I think it's like this, and what do you think this would be? And you know, they can tell you. And it's surprising sometimes how quick they come back, because they're starting to form this picture in their mind and starting to see it evolving, you know. And I think that's a good idea as well. If you get stuck, or if you start a story off, but then you're suddenly stuck for ideas, you know, read what they've wrote so far and then start saying, well, what if, what do you think that did? And you start banding ideas from there, you know, and sort of take it towards where you want it to go. Ask them where they want the story to go, and if they don't know, you can sort of guide along with it and throwing ideas to each other then and jotting it all down. So I think that's very useful to do. I went on a writing course all years ago, and because I used to like writing poetry and short stories myself, so I did a writing course. It was a bit like school actually, because they give you stories, short stories, and it was a bit like doing the comprehension I was talking about earlier. You had to look into it, they'd give you questions and you'd have to read it and really go into it and bring things out of it. So a thing I learned from that was that you would have the skeleton, so you'd write your idea down, because normally when you're going to have a story, maybe you've got some idea in mind. It might not be anything that's strong or whether you even want to use it, but just jot down what you've got. So get your skeleton ideas, how many people you want in it. So say you've got 6 people, and they work in a factory, and maybe one works in an office. You know, you just like that, and then you start filling it all out, you flesh it out then. So if you've got your characters, so you've got your skeleton idea and your skeleton characters, start fleshing your characters out first, because that's will involve your idea. So you start saying, right, are they boys or girls? You know, what are they like? Say you've got 2 of each, then give them a name, which you've decided which boys, which girls, give them a name, and what does so-and-so look like, what colours of hair and eyes, and what are they like? And you sort of work on that, and you flesh your characters right out. And it's only when you can flesh your characters out, you've got an image of people, and you can start putting them into adventures or whatever you want your story to be. You can say like what your characters like, the personality, and some sporty or adventurous, or some, you know, like the arts, some like music, some just lazy, don't like doing nothing. You know, you make all sorts of ideas, what they're like, what the personalities are like, and then you jot all this down and you're fleshing your characters right out. Then you look at the sort of people they are, then you can start thinking of the sort of storyline that they could take on, you know, adventures or the sort of things you can do. So you took that skeleton, that core idea and the core people, you fleshed your people out, and then you start fleshing your story out, and that's how you do it. And before you know it, you're sort of rolling away with all these different ideas and things that they're doing. The hardest thing about a story is bringing it to an end sometimes, you know. It's anything like me, because I like talking, I'd go writing forever and ever. I'd be better off ending it quick and having a sequel. But yeah, sometimes bringing it to an end can be a bit tricky, because you think, how am I going to end it? But again, just walk away from it, put a few ideas down. Have you got an idea how you want it to end? And then put a few ideas down that maybe could draw it to an end, that sort of thing. So yeah, really it's all about jotting your ideas, just having the ideas down first of all. And another good thing that they always say when writing, write about what you know about. That's another thing. Quite often I've said to Sian, well, what have you done this weekend? And, you know, jot down what have you done, your adventures and things like that. So write about something you know about. So that's pretty good. And you can, on the other hand, say, or write about what you'd like to have done this weekend. And so, yeah, there's lots of possibilities and things that you could do. Lots of ideas. Once you start writing them, it's surprising how many ideas come out. And you start thinking, oh, yeah, but I could have wrote this, or jot that down too. And it's surprising what you can put together. I mean, some people can just sit with a pen and paper and just roll it all off, whereas others will have the skeleton. I mean, an author will have a skeleton and build it all out. They'll always have the ideas in their head, and then they'll have the characters, they'll flesh the characters out, the scenarios and everything like that. So that's quite a good idea, I think. So there's a few different ways of doing it. But like I said, we've never had resources. I was doing this, so I'll get my words right. I always have to make a mistake. Resources, there's plenty, well, plenty in the sense of comprehension, reading comprehension, but I've not seen nothing for Key Stage 3 as such, other than the Twinkle comprehension sheets, which are good, because Sian did one the other day. It was a ghost story, and they took like pieces of it, and you had to go into it, and you know, and it went into the detailed parts of it, which is really good, because that's the thing. You've got your characters, you've got your storyline, but it's little details as well, thinking little details. Because like you can say, you know, oh, my friend says that house is haunted and I don't think it is, and it looks okay to me. But then they go back after dark, you know, and they look at the house, and then suddenly it looks a whole lot different. And you can just start describing why it looks different. You know, maybe the moon's out and casting shadows on it that look eerie shapes and things like that. And there's sort of all your meatier bits that you start bringing in to cast the image in your head of how things look. So it's just a case of saying things, you know, writing things, ideas, just write sentences, anything. But I think the best way is just chucking ideas to each other, that's always a good thing. I mean, I do that with Sian quite a lot. We throw ideas at each other. She often has her own ideas, but she has times where she doesn't know what to do. So it'll be either what have you done, what real life scenario has happened. You can elaborate on it. That was one thing I did have to say there. You don't have to stick entirely to what has happened. You can sort of take it off into what you'd like to have happened or things like that, and, you know, into an imaginary world. But your reality was the basis for it, sort of thing. It kickstarts you. So yeah, they're really the sort of ways we use, ways we do stories. We haven't got any actual resources as such, although I did see on Amazon that they've got a book, a GCSE book about stories and, you know, how to do stories. What I'll have to do, I haven't got the book. I did see it once. I'll have to look for it, and I will jot down what it's called down below in the comments or in the description bit down below. When I go and find it, I will have a look what it's called. A couple of times I thought, shall I order it and shall I get it? But we seem to get on so well without needing it that I've never bothered. But, you know, it might be worth having a look. But it was about £10–12, something like that. And I thought, do I really need it? Because Sian does fine as it is. But we'll see. But I'll have a look for it and I'll tell you what it's called, because you might like to get it yourself or look it up on Amazon and see what you think, because you might be interested yourself. But yeah, we don't really use many resources like that. Like I say, it's just the Twinkle comprehension sheets and that kind of thing we use. And mainly it's just based on what, you know, what she's done, and turn it into a story, starting, like I said, with reality, and can end up in, you know, fantasy land, mix and matching, things like that. Throwing ideas down to each other, just saying things, and, you know, you build up a picture and a story that way. If your child's stuck on something, just throw a few ideas out there. What if, and what do you think if such and such happened? That kind of thing. And also I used to like what Sian did at school. Like I said, we started doing it when we first finished, was putting so many lines down, just random sentences, and they built a story up from that, and just having it sort of to a minimum amount of words, because obviously you couldn't go too far unless you got lists and lists of sentences, and that wouldn't really work, I think, because not for a whole great big story. You just get a bit boggled down with it, not sure where to put what where. But for a short story, a little story, that would be great if you kept it to a certain amount of words. So that's just a few ideas of what we do. That's, you know, how we do it. I haven't got any major resources that I can show you or anything like that, but that's just how we do it. If any of you have got any resources or different ideas, please drop them down below in the comments, because it's helpful to everybody who reads them. And I love reading them anyway. I like a chat. Any excuse for a chat. But yeah, it's nice because it does help everybody if you've got some ideas yourselves that, you know, is useful to others. So that's all I can say on that, really. So now the rest of the week, what we're going to be doing, I'm going to go back to the bread maker there, as you can see, and we're going to do some different bread this week. And the reason I'm going to do some different bread is, one, I promised somebody I was going to show them the bottom of the bread, what it was like, and I want to cut it in half to see what the bottom is like, but I'll explain all that when we do it. Also, Sian wanted to have a go at doing some of these, because she used to do cooking homeschool, but she didn't really take to that too much, but she doesn't mind the cooking. I think she's a bit put off with the oven and that. So I said, oh, you can help me do some bread then. We'll have a go in the bread maker and we'll do some nice bread, some fruity bread or something like that. I thought, quite nice, that is. So I thought we'll do some of that, and I'll film it and show you, so I can show you the bottom of this bread as well, but which, you know, I'll explain more when I do it. And Sian can have a go at doing it. So she'll probably help me. She won't want to sit in the programme and do it on her own. She'd rather like sort of just help and watch, which is good because she's learning while she's doing that anyway. So we're going to do that. That'll probably be Wednesday. And then Thursday, we're going to the big one in front, the air fryer. Not sure what we're doing in the air fryer yet, but I'm sure I'll think something up before Thursday. I've got lots of ideas what I want to try in there. And so far I've been quite lucky because everything's worked out, but I'm sure there's going to come a time it isn't. But everyone's given me some brilliant ideas with that and how to do things in it. So that's really good, really helpful. So Thursday we'll do that. So Wednesday we're going to do the bread making, and Thursday we're going to find something to air fry. We'll do that. So thank you for watching. Thank you to all my new subscribers. Some of you might not be here now anyway, because you're probably here for the air fryer ones. But to anybody who is here that's new, thank you so much for subscribing and for watching. Thank all of you for watching. And then hopefully I'll see you on Wednesday for the bread making, and again on Thursday for the air frying. So until then, take care of yourselves. Bye.